Hello everyone, this is Sandy over at Needle Nut Embroidery. It is a MS day, so I'm going to stay behind the camera. But I just wanted to show you that a customer brought in this pepper color long sleeve comfort color shirt, and they brought in these baby clothes, and I've already cut the ruffles off the butts. But these are going to be on here and just going to say Mama. And instead of the typical satin edge stitch, we're going to do the diamond edge stitch. So I have already went through and cut the butts off, put the heat and bond light. I just need to pull my paper off. And I will show you this step in the video here. But I just wanted to let you know that this is what we're working on at the moment. And the reason I do the heat and bond light, even though that these both are knit fabrics, is because it makes the trimming easier when you go to trim out your letters. But anyway, this is a Comfort Colors pepper long sleeve t-shirt. Customer picked it up at Hobby Lobby and then brought in their baby clothes to have a Baby Clothes Mama shirt done, and we're going to do it in the diamond edge stitching. So here we go through the steps with me, and if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. If you're new here and you like what we're doing, hit the subscribe button. That way you'll be notified when we do a new video. We are new to YouTube, however we are not new to embroidery. Been doing it for over 25 years. So anyway, join us today. We're happy to have you, and let's keep watching. On this part here, we've taken the ruffle and cut it out. And so what we're going to do is we're going to press this, and we're just going to press these little ruffles open as best we can. And if not open, we're just going to flatten those out at the moment, because we can spruce those up later. And then what we're going to do is we're going to flip this over, smooth it out, and then take our heat and bond light. And I've got a couple of just scrap pieces here, and we're going to use those. And we're just going to give that a very thorough pressing here. And then see how those have flattened down, and that will make it easier to stitch. Now on this one, I've done the same thing, but you can see these ruffles are a little larger. But I've ironed those down flat. I've also put the heat and bond light on the back of them. Here I've got my stabilizer out and getting it ready for my hoop. Just going to hoop this up real quick. And what I do is I fold it in half, slide it up under my shirt. Open this up, and then I make sure that the shirt is nice and flat. And then because I have the standard hoops that came with my Amaya and not the magnetic, this bottom piece slides up just like you normally would. Make sure your stabilizer's nice and neat under there. And then the middle of the hoop has this little piece here, so we're going to make sure that we have that hooped on here. And what we're doing is customer brought this in, and they went and picked up a Comfort Colors t-shirt to have this done on. And then once your hoop is in there, then because the Amaya has to have this go on the right hand side when you're looking at the machine, I need to turn my hoop around. And what you're going to do is just make sure that you're in the center, and there's a little notch in here. You want to make sure that that is centered with the neckline, because the neck is never going to change, even though different manufacturing may have one side of the shirt a tad bit wider than the other, but the neck is never going to change. And then I've been doing this for years and years, so I just eyeball it. But if you're not 100% positive, just have a ruler and just take a measure to the seam in the same spot and see that comes out level, because you don't want it crooked. So now we're going to move to the machine. All right, so we're at the computer now, and I am using the Rivermill Varsity Diamond Edge font. As you can see the diamonds on the edge of here. So what we're going to do is, I don't want it to stop and do each letter individually. You can leave it like that. That's the way it is set up. However, I want it to do each letter and then go back and do the top stitching all together. So what you do is, in Brilliance, you select your font, and then each one has its own little dot, and you want to click this third color here, and I'm going to make them all the light pink, and I'm just going to do that to each one. And then when I do this, it turns all the stitching the same color, just as it was just a moment ago. But now if I go through here and I go to Utility and I hit Color Sort and then New View, it brings it into a new page, and then it will stitch each one of these like this. So this would do it as if you were doing all the same color, but I don't want to do that. Each one, I want the letter to be different. So I'm just going to hit no on that, go back over here, and then where it has your three colors here, this is going to be the same for each one. So I want to make this different for each one. So I'm just going to click that first lay down stitch, and I'm just going to select a random color and do that on each one, and just change it up to where each letter does not have the same colors in it. That way when it goes to do the color sort, it will do each one differently. We're going to pick this color here. So now each one of these should be a different color, and none of them have the same except for the top diamond stitching. And then we go back to Utility, Color Sort, and New View. And then when you click over here to the side, it will give you each one. So those two are the same. Then it'll do the M, and then the M, and the M, and the A. And then all you do is, you can leave it like that, or simply put those together. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to go over here to my list, and I can see that the Brother Pink is the one that we use. So I'm just going to right click, and I'm going to move to later. And I'm going to do this each one. You can do it that way, or you can simply highlight this and then carry it down to put it in the spot that you want. And then now what will happen is, I can handle the M and the A, because I know that this is going to be one fabric and this is going to be one fabric. And then it will go back and do the stitch down on top of the fabric, stitch down for the next fabric, stitch down for it, stitch down, or tack fabric, and then the placement fabric, and then the tack down stitch, and then the tack down stitch for the last letter. Now you can play with your colors, and as long as they're not both the same, like this one here, or both the embroidery magenta, you can go in and change one of these letters, and then it will change that. So just for reference sake, we're going to go ahead and do that, just so you guys can see your availability. Now I am using in Brilliance Enthusiast. It is not your digitizing level, so you don't have to worry about, you know, having the top of the line or what you're able to do. This just opens it up to where you can do a little bit more. Now see, I changed the M color to where it would be not the magenta. So none of these are going to be the same except for that light pink on the diamonds. Now we'll go back to utility and hit color sort, new view, and then we go over here to our objects, and now we can see that the M is going to stitch the placement, then it will stitch the tack down, and then it will allow it to stitch the edging stitch if you want to. But I don't want to do that. I want to do the edging stitch after everything's been put down. So like I showed you just a moment ago, we're just going to grab that pink and we're going to drag that down. And in order to drag this down, you have to be able to click it, and then you're going to hold that button on your mouse and bring it down. Okay? If you click it and you let go, then you can't, then it won't drag. So you have to click it and then you're going to drag it down. And then just stick it in there in between. And you can simply click on those to make sure. So now, just for showing you how to do this, you can click the M. That's going to be our tack down replacement, so you know where to put your fabric. You put your fabric on there, then you're going to do this. The tack down stitch will hold the fabric in place, allow you to go ahead and trim that out. And then we have the A the same way, the next M the same way, the next A the same way, and then we get into where it will do the edging stitching, edging stitching, edging stitching, and then edging stitching, instead of stopping and doing each one individually. Now that we have that taken care of, we're just going to save our stitch file as, and because I'm using a Melco Maya, I'm going to choose the DST, and I have my USB chosen, and we're going to name it Mama Diamond, because I already have one that has the satin stitch on here, so I'm just going to name it Mama Diamond. You can name it whatever you want to, whatever you can find. However makes it easy for you to find it when you load it into the machine. And we're just going to hit save. And yes, it's asking me if I want to replace it. We're just going to hit yes. So give me just a second here and we'll get you over to the machine. Okay, so now I have got it into the computer for the Maya machine. And what we're going to do is, now I've already put it on the machine, and of course I did not show the steps of how you would put your colors in and make it to stop for your applique, but you can do this on whatever machine you're using. You do not have to use a Melco machine. You can use your Baby Lock, your Brother, whatever you choose to do. But right now, what I want to do is, before I get started, even though I've measured and I've checked, I just want to make sure that my placement is good. Now, when I put my hoop on, I go by these middle screws. I know that's going to be the center, and then the center points here. And so I know off the top of my head that my design is going to fall right in here. And the design that we're doing today is 10 3/8 inches wide and 3 3/4 inches tall. So when that comes in, that's going to give me that 4-finger rule, or 3.5 inches down. You can even mark this with a piece of tape. That way you know when you're tracing that you've got it where you want it to be. But now we're going to go ahead and trace this. And you could never do too many traces to make sure that your design goes in the hoop where you want it to be. And so now we're going to hit start. and now it will come out. And this is one of the things I do love about my Melco, is that it does sit this up. Now I've already put the Heat and Bond Light on the fabric. You see the shiny? So now I'm going to place this down on top of here. And I want to try to get as much ruffle in there as possible, and I think the whole ruffle will fit. And so now it's ready for the tack down, and we're going to hit go. Now, just for the sake of this, I'm going to go ahead and just keep my hands on the fabric for a minute. That way it didn't get caught on the needle and pull it up. And this is a little bit different than normal. Most people are not using the ruffle butts, but the customer specifically asked to have the ruffle into the design. And so now that I have it in here, I'm just going to trim this off. I will do a tight trim in a few minutes after we've got the rest of them on here. And I did grab my fabric scissors just so we could easily get through those ruffles. Now we're going to do the next letter. And same as before, I've already put the Heat and Bond Light on here. And I'm going to position this where I want it. And try to have some even spacing here. And go ahead and hit start again. And like I said before, I'm just keeping my hands way away from the needle. But just making sure that that fabric did not stick on the needle and come up when it was stitching. I know I can't be the only one that has ever happened to. And same as before, I'm just going to take my fabric scissors, make sure I'm not getting the shirt, and then just cut this off. And I'm going to let it stitch the other two letters and then come right back to you. Now that these are stitched on, I am going to carefully go in and trim around each letter with about the width of my scissors away from there. And I'm using these double curved scissors by Ginger. They are fabulous for getting in here and doing a tight stitch. And just because we have some bulk on here, because what I did is I just cut the whole back end off where the ruffles were on the garment. So now I'm just gonna trim this out of the way with my fabric scissors. Not regular scissors, but the fabric scissors. And then just go in and trim that as close as you can get it there. Just make sure that if you're new to this, you want to make sure that the end of your scissors is up underneath the fabric and not poking into the shirt. And now with the ruffles on here, you have to be careful when you go through, because it wants to catch up on those. And then once you have the bulk of it away, see how that wanted to catch in there? So you just want to. And it's always nice to have a surface that you can trim on that is up at a decent height for you. And then just because I want this to be a little bit closer, because I know that that's going to give that stitch a little bit of a problem, I'm just going to go back in there and trim that off a little bit. Now, I chose the diamond edge because I really like that look, but not only that, I believe it will give the ruffles a little more visibility, where if you done the satin stitch, you're going to have a hard time covering those ruffles very easy. Because they're going to want to stick up, and where it sticks up, it's going to have a hard time trimming. Now, because of the ruffles and the way that this is going to be, I'm not going to trim out the centers of my A. I'm just going to let the stitching be visible there, just because I don't want to upset the integrity of the ruffles, and it is so tight in there, I don't run the risk cutting the shirt either. Now, this one here is this little faux denim, so it's a little bit bulkier, and you can get in here and trim up underneath the ruffle first if you'd like. There's nothing wrong with doing it that way. I'm just cutting some of the bulk out here before I actually start in with my real close trim. And this has a seam, so it's a little more difficult, but I'm keeping my fingers up underneath the back side so that we can trim in here and keep the nose of my scissors out from cutting my shirt. And you see that several little layers there. That had a tag in behind there, so we'll have to use a lint roller. What I'm doing here is I'm just getting up underneath of that ruffle, the layers, so I can get a little bit tighter trim right there. And what I did is, because this is the M, I started here towards the point of that M, so I'd have plenty of excess room to get in here and do that little lip that's right there. Same thing on this side. Just gonna trim some of that excess out real quick. Get up underneath of the edge of the ruffle. Free it up. Now, for those of you who are thinking, why in the world are they stitching with the ruffle in it? Well, because the customer wanted to have the ruffles in there, and we wanted to be different, so this is what we decided to do. I'm just going to cut that bulk out of there. And I believe the end product is just going to be fabulous. If you don't ever try anything new, then, and you know what, it's really good is this customer understands that if this one doesn't work, we're just going to get a different shirt and we'll try something different. But there's no harm in doing that. Just make sure you do it with somebody that is a very good customer and willing to do that, or try it on your own first. But you have to broaden your horizons. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish trimming these and come back to the camera and let you see what they look like after they're trimmed. And then we'll go back to the machine and finish this off. Okay, so we are back at the machine and I have trimmed this. I mean, it almost looks cute enough just to leave it as is. So what we're going to do is we're going to put it back on the machine. And you want to make sure that you're feeling up underneath your shirt because you do not want the top and the bottom to be stitched together. So just make sure that everything is out of the way. And we're going to hit start. This is how it looks after it came off the machine. So it has a nice vintage look to it. And what we're going to do is we're just going to steam really well where the hoop was. Give this a nice iron. Set that heat and bond light. And the key to getting a good press is having a really good iron. And so I love a nice steam iron. It's this on here. And give me a second, I'll put it on me. This is what it looks like. You can still see a couple steam marks, but isn't this just absolutely adorable? And that is the Onesie Mama or Baby Clothing Mama shirt done with the diamond edge. Thanks, friends. We'll see you again.